automobile first sprang into being, we were intrigued. Here, within the reach of every pair of hands, was an instrument that would annihilate distance and time. But the most enthusiastic of our grandfathers could never have dreamed to what degree the car would become part of the landscape and of our lives. The automobile is omnipresent. We spend our time making them, building roads for them, financing them, repossessing them, producing gas and oil for them, driving them, selling them, and scrapping them. Today, 1 out of 3 adult North Americans makes his living directly or indirectly from the automobile.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with the car. The only thing that is wrong with this car, there are a few scratches on it. When you'll go and buy a 56 hardtop or a 56 convertible, brand new, there'll be a difference of $500 in price. And now I am asking you a difference of $100 in price for the same year car. There's $400 difference in a car.
Yeah, but you're comparing to
Plus you have the convenience and the pleasure of driving in a convertible, which you have the sunshine.
But there's no
I see you're a young man. I'm
convertible.
sure you're not married. Are you married,
No.
sir? You're not married. Well, I'm sure you'd like a convertible, because if you drive a convertible, you'll have... I know the girls like to drive in a convertible.
Yeah, but at the same time, I like a convertible myself. Me, I don't mind, but people sitting in the back get blown out the seats.
Will you be sitting in the back, sir?
No.
Will you be thinking about the other people in the back?
It just depends. If I'm in the front and there's 2 broads sitting in the back, I'm going to be thinking about them.
Well, if you're in the front, I'm certain you're not going to have 2 girls sitting in the back.
Yeah, well, that's also a point for consideration. Anyway, firstly, the price you asked, $1,700, is much too much for this car.
Well, the customer would walk in. I try to size him up when he walks in. In the sales world, I guess in all selling fields, they have a certain feeling about people. I see my customer, I feel that he has money. They feel that they're going to outsmart you. But naturally, if you're delivering a car to them, you've outsmarted them. That doesn't sound too good, does it?
Well, they're always trying to give you a hosing. So as long as he thinks he is giving you a hosing, he's happy. But he never does. All the dealers stay in business. We don't go out of business. But as long as he feels that if he wants a car for, let's say, he comes in and he says, I want a car for $500 or $600. I know I can sell that car for $500 or $600, but I'm going to ask him 8 or 9, maybe even more for it. So if he knocks me down to it, well, if I ask him $900 for the car and he figures he's got me down to about 8.5, let's say 8. If he gets me down to 8, he says, I'm really giving it to him tonight.
What about the women?
Well, the women I find are the easiest people to sell to. Because very often you'll get a girl or a woman that doesn't know anything about a car, so she puts her whole trust into you. I'm not going to say that I can't be trusted, but if I can push a little rougher car into her that I know that I can't push into a man for the same price, I certainly will give it to the woman. But we give them a guarantee with it, because we give them a 30-day guarantee. They can always find what's wrong with it. I'm sure if a woman, any kind of a guarantee you give them, if there's any little thing, they bring it right into me. I know I've had it happen to me.
Almost 9 million of us on this continent bought some kind of car last year, plunging ourselves into the joys and problems that a car brings, and into the endless talk about them. Where to park them, upkeep, the virtues and vices of our particular make, accidents. Most people feel that each new model, despite certain weaknesses which are easily remedied, is a progression towards the ideal car. We feel that it's a better object in itself than the older models we keep patching up. Very few people, on the other hand, are not satisfied with any existing car. Mr. Raymond Loewy designed this one for himself alone. In the New York offices of his famous designing firm, Mr. Loewy has long pondered the problems of car design.
I love car. That's, to me, it's the joy of life, a good car. A racy, nervous car, a car where you can feel the road, feel integrated with the road, associated with highways, where the steering is of such characteristics that if there's a bump on the surface, you feel it. I like to feel that bump. I don't want to be dissociated from the landscape and be sitting in feathers and rolling on the soft sponge rubber on a road of mayonnaise, you might call it. I like to feel the road. I like driving. Therefore, I drive mostly European cars because they give me that feeling. And recently, I must say, some of the American automobiles are going in that direction, and I think it's wonderful news.
Many people feel that present-day cars are badly designed. How do they get that way?
Excuse me. It's rather, well, I would say a constant process. The sales department, usually, the sales department evaluation of what the next product should be is based on an existing product. And they try to go what they call one better. So why not make it a little bit bigger, a little bit larger, a little bit more powerful, a little bit roomier, a little bit more gaudy, a little bit more jazzy. And it's a continuous process which leads to monstrosities, lead to the point where, as I forecast 10 years ago in a book I wrote, where through its sheer absurdity of design, the whole thing collapses, and that there's a return to design sanity and restraint and good taste. I think we are witnessing that sort of thing now.
You used the word taste just now.
Oh, that's...
What is your definition of taste?
Well, I would say this is probably one of the most difficult questions you could ask me, and it has to be my own version of it. I'm not trying to sell it as a staple description of it. To me, taste is a reduction to an object, taste in designing, reduction to its simplest expression, short of aridity and dryness, which can be very dangerous. In other words, we believe when we design anything, in designing it as simply as we can, devoid of superfluous ornamentation, so it's functional and clean and neat, but short of being dry and forbidding. To me, this is taste as we see it.
Do you believe that the yearly model change is economically wasteful?
Well, that has been extensively covered too by others. My own feeling that as far as the American market is concerned, Americans like change. If you don't give it to them, they'll buy the products where they can get it. I think there's too much change that is unnecessary, but I don't see that in this market how we can possibly avoid periodical changes. We designers insist that if there is to be a change, it be based on sound logic, on quality, or improved function, or reduced cost. We are against change in style for style purposes. Every one of us is opposed to that. And I think in the end we will succeed. So that changes, if they are made, are for the best.
You see, actually a car is a buckboard. It should be a plain platform with 4 wheels or 3 wheels perhaps, and an engine placed here or there, and then you simply make this thing move. Instead, you get this funny kind of marshmallow performance. This thing, every car we buy and drive around here, we call the black marshmallow.
Robert Osborne is one of America's best-known cartoonists and a satirical illustrator of books and magazines.
Never feel them cleanly. as round wheels that then move along this way, as you do very often still in European cars. I know some German cars, and there's still some English cars, and some Italian cars in which they will always very clearly cut the fender around the wheel, so you feel the wheel, not a funny thing floating along underneath this marshmallow. This is, and as I say, I think that the Detroit designers get into trouble because they don't have a clear idea of where they're designing their car, what the car is supposed to look like, what they always hope it will look like. Instead, for 4 years they'll make it absolutely gigantic and load it with chrome. Then for 4 years they will try to pinch it down. Then they'll take the chrome off because they keep changing the objective so steadily. They start out and they do this, and then let's say they have this kind of a shape. As I say, it just looks perfectly soft. Then 1 year they think, let's put fins on it. So they put fins on here. And then they may say, let's put a great big grill on here. Let's make it look heavy. Let's make it look rich. So they put this thing on. And then here are these little wheels, just to, you never can be dead sure that there are wheels on there, but there they are underneath there. Then next year they say, let's carry these fins way forward here, or let's put something along here that juts out. And then the next year they will put these projection there. But then they'll begin taking this part off and cutting this down and doing some strange thing here. They'll take this out. Then they begin, now for about 4 or 5 years, they will cut it down so that this becomes really quite angular here. And they'll begin emphasizing these lines again. They will make this smaller. But then, 10 years from now, presently they'll be back to making this large again. And this is why I don't feel that they know that they don't know what they are. I feel that they don't know what they're doing, because this thing, just like an amoeba, just keeps changing. The shape goes on and changes from one form to another. You sit here 1 year, the next year you may sit up there, then they cut all of this off, and as I say, if you watch an amoeba through a telescope, you have the feeling that it changes its shape about that way. Perhaps a great design could make that, perhaps Bugatti could make a single body, this is smoothed out body, and make that a very moving and beautiful thing. But I think it'd be quite hard to equal those early cars, for instance, early Hispano, in which you felt such marvelous vitality to the designer's concept. And you feel that they were actually designing, trying to refine the thing down, instead of suddenly making it next year like that, or this year like this, or bringing out a brand new car and saying, why don't we have the hood like this, and then finally giving up the car entirely. But doing all of this kind of business, I say, you feel, compared to the European designers, that the Americans don't really know what they want to do. They are simply changing this so that you won't be able to drive your car if it has this bump on, because this year the bump is coming out here, and you look kind of silly unless you're a really brave person and you don't worry about what your neighbors are saying. Most people are so timid, they say, oh, we have to have it sticking out this year. We have to have it sticking out here this year, and next year they'll get you there and there.
A few people still enjoy the performance of a fast car.
Oh, they're on 1,500 for 30 seconds. That seems all right, I think. Got it, Mark?
But with everybody desiring the freedom a car brings, a few problems have arisen.
Matter of fact, we're building the first elevated expressway in lower Manhattan now.
Nowhere is the traffic problem so acute as in the great metropolis of New York. There, the man faced with finding the answer is Commissioner Robert Moses.
That's something that ought to have been done a long time back, way back, connecting the bridges in lower Manhattan with the Holland Tunnel, connecting the Queens Midtown Tunnel with the Lincoln Tunnel. There's only one way in which you can do that. You can't go down in another tunnel because you have to go under the subways. It's 70 feet deep. The cost is prohibitive, including the cost of ventilation. You can't stay on the surface. That's our trouble now. So you've got to go up. That's all there is. Now, when you go up, you don't run on a street and take away light and air. And you don't go through buildings, although I've always thought that's a possibility. You go on an independent right-of-way next to the existing streets. Take 100 feet, put the elevated structure on that. Don't take away any light. Don't take away any air. Don't cause any inconvenience to the neighbors. But going through buildings, actually going through them, is something that could be done, but it isn't understood. And I remember some years ago, I talked to Governor Smith about going through the Empire State Building. And he said, where? I said, the second and third floors. It take 100 feet, half the building. He said, you're crazy. I said, why am I crazy? He said, we've got a bank in there. Upstairs bank. Well, the governor is my mentor, and I worked for him for many years, but I didn't think that, he had the picture, but he didn't want any part of it. Don't want automobiles in my building.
Some experts feel we must look far beyond expressways for the answer.
I testified recently before a congressional committee on a plan, a transportation plan for the city of Washington. Now, this transportation plan, if it's carried out, will involve an enormous expenditure of $2.5 billion, and the planners say this will be expended before 1980. Or they may find that it's necessary before that. Now, that's a lot of money even for a rich country.
Albert Mayer is the eminent architect and city planner chiefly responsible for designing Kitimat, BC, and the new capital of India.
We have to devote the large sum of money, and the roads will be staggering in appearance. You know, these tremendous 2- and 3-level clover leaves. In the center of town, they are planning to have 8-lane superhighways. Just imagine 8 lanes will be with a thing in between, be of the order of 200 feet wide. In other words, a huge swath through the town, so that we'll always be conscious of these tremendous gaps in our landscape, in our what used to be the calm of the city, in order to be able to get this complete anarchic motion in any direction we want through any places. Now, this is one kind of city that you can produce. This is the inevitable effect of saying, okay, the car is the thing. If there are more cars, I meant to add this. In this Washington thing, they figured that the number of trips would increase twice as fast as the number of people. You see, they're not reducing the friction of space. They're not making it simpler to get around, but they're giving this, what I call this anarchic element, the private automobile, which has an average of 1.5 passengers only. They're giving it this big push so that there are going to be twice as many trips per person, and they're going to be 3 times as much mileage. Think of that. So that we're not going to catch up with ourselves. This new element of superhighways, or what they call expressways, will keep on encouraging more and more of the car, and its use so that we can never catch up to it. One of the great developments of the last decade and a half has been what's called the regional shopping center. Now, this regional shopping center is quite a decent place when you get to it. They have the conventional design is a big mall. People walk, they aren't interfered with by cars. It's a haven of quiet, a haven of separation, if you like. Cars all around it, so you can get there. When you get there, you can have peace, you can sit down, you can shop when you feel like, you aren't crisscrossed by all this traffic. Now, if this principle is adopted to the center of us, adopted and adapted in the center of our cities, we can really, we're not helpless victims, or we don't have to be, is what I'm trying to say. And I'd like to emphasize this. We can control it if we aren't advertised to death, if we aren't pressured to death. If we could make ourselves heard, we can, I think, with greater economy, produce better living than by simply assuming as one of the commandments that the automobile is the god of the situation.
Every year now in North America, there are enacted rather strange ritualistic performances in which men pit their skill and cunning against the powers of the automobile. We want to prove to ourselves that we shall ultimately emerge as the masters of an object which is on the one hand a joy and delight, but on the other can be as lethal as a dangerous weapon. We defy and thumb our noses at the power of the instrument, which sometimes is a dealer of death.
Well, as we
moment of victory is the moment of our triumph, and the mighty car goes to its ignominious end. Within the next 10 or 15 years, the number of automobiles in operation is expected to double. The Red Queen, in Through the Looking Glass, said to Alice, "Here, you see, it takes all the running you can do to stay in the same place. If you want to get somewhere else, you must run at least twice as fast as that."